Good evening. This is the Walpole Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight is Wednesday, January 4th, and it is 7 p.m. The first case we have for the Zoning Board of Appeals is case number 22-30 for 15 Winthrop Street, special permit under zoning bylaws section 94A and section 12(3)C. It was noticed in the local paper stating, notice is hereby given, the Walpole Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Walpole will hold a public hearing in the main meeting room, Town of Walpole, on Wednesday, January 4th at 7 p.m. on the application from Marco DeMello, case number 22-30 with respect to property located at 15 Winthrop Street, Walpole, Mass, zoning district, Residence B. Application is for a special permit under the zoning bylaws, section 94A and section 12(3)C, for the modification to a pre-existing non-conforming one-family dwelling that exceeds the impervious surface requirements for residential use within the Water Resource Protection Overlay District. We have a few pieces of correspondence. We have a letter from the Deputy Chief, Paul Barry, which states, if the request is approved, building plans, including the location of all life safety devices, will need to be submitted through the building department for our review. A follow-up Walpole Fire Department inspection will be conducted to ensure compliance with the approved plans. We have a letter from Kevin Plunkett and Kathleen Watson at 7 Pilots Way. This is in reference to case number 22-30. And it states, for your information, this lot is one of 4 out of 5 abutting lots in the area that have been clear cut of trees in 2021, 2022. There are 3 ongoing projects in this area. 2 abide by the town bylaws, in my opinion. But in my opinion, should be looked at collectively as a group of 4 as a potential negative impact to the water protection district. What are the planting plans for the finished project? That's the question. Number 2, number 15 Winthrop Street is at the pinnacle of the road, thus any water runoff sheds westerly towards the Minebrook Wetlands Water Resource Protection Overlay District through a culvert that shoots the water through a series of old storm drains that deposit the water directly into a stream bed. No retention basin. Whilst pursuing the plan on file in the ZBA office, I did notice that 2 dry wells have been engineered as part of the plan. Will 2 dry wells sufficiently alleviate the lack of infiltration due to the increase of impermeable surface and allay any negative impacts on the neighborhood? That's a question. As surface water runs off may negatively impact the lower elevation neighbors. Please bear these issues in mind when assessing this application. We do not object to this variance. It is a special, I'm stating it's a special permit, not a variance. We want to ensure that any plans submitted for this are sufficiently scrutinized and that the plan for 15 Winthrop Street meets the overall requirements for approval of such alterations to the Water Resource Protection Overlay District. Thank you for your service to the Town of Walpole. Signed, Kevin Plunkett and Kathleen Watson. Okay. We have a letter from Carl Baldoff, the town engineer, stating that we have reviewed the following: the plans submitted by Dunn & McKenzie and the architectural plans. And the town engineer's comment is, we have verified the proposed roof infiltration system is correctly sized. The engineering department should be notified by the installer prior to installation for permitting inspection. Otherwise, we have no objections to granting the requested relief. Health Department has no objections to the special permit request. And that's it. Okay. So we have copies of the plans, and if the who's the applicant? Okay. Okay, do you want to come forward and explain what you're proposing?
Yes, I have,
So do you want us to explain the build, or what we intend to do, or
Yep.
the drainage plan?
Well, you can finish up with the drainage plan, but just give an overall view of what you're proposing to do. We've got plans in front of us so we can follow along. So we just, it's a single-family home, how you're adding on.
Yeah, it's a single-family home. We're demoing the current home that's there. We've been there, family's been there over 60 years. We're demoing the current, we're leaving the current foundation, and then we're gonna add on to that. We're gonna add on to the garage also, which is really the new impervious space, along with the back of the house. So covers, I think, around 15% of the impervious area of the yard. And so this is why we had the Dunn McKinsey come out and do the drainage for us, and do 2 drainage systems that allows us to kind of finish that code off for us. So there you go.
Okay, so you're taking down the entire house?
Entire house is
Okay.
coming down.
Are you leaving anything up? Yeah.
Just the foundation's staying up.
Okay. Did you know the whole house was coming down?
It was a modification to the existing home, not a demo of the existing home.
so the foundation remains, that's the,
Just the foundation
project,
remains. The
yeah.
demolition of the house is going to be complete.
complete, yeah.
Have you talked to the building inspector about the fact that the whole house is coming down?
Absolutely,
Several
yeah.
times.
Yeah, several times.
So, I'll just say, I haven't even asked other board members, there's a little bit of a concern when the whole house comes down, because when it comes down, you lose your protection of the setbacks that you were not in compliance with.
Right.
So, does anybody, Bob, or Judy, would,
Oh, I agree.
Okay.
That, the bylaw states, enlarging or extending, changing, extension, or alteration of an existing non-conforming one-family or two-family dwelling. It doesn't say just the foundation. I think we dealt with something like this recently. We were extended. It's different, maybe different, but when something's already existing,
yeah,
I have a problem with.
Yeah, no, we discussed this at length, actually. We went back and forth, at length on
okay.
the
Bob,
fact that
how about-
it was being scraped, yeah.
Bob?
Everything is pre-existing now.
Yeah, pre-existing non-conforming.
Right, right.
It's a dwelling.
No, I think it's, it is a question. It's not really an alteration, it's sort of a new construction, essentially. So typically, under that circumstance, you would be required to come into compliance with the existing, except to the extent that you might have relief because your lot's undersized or whatever, because
Right.
obviously that's not changing. But it looked like the application referred to section 9(4)A, which is the provision in the bylaw that Judy was just talking about, which deals specifically with alterations and modifications to existing non-conforming structures as opposed to elimination and then rebuild.
Right.
So, but I guess I'd
So-
like to hear from the building inspector if that's been discussed, what the rationale was for continuing in that.
The plan you submitted itself includes it as an addition. So I was under the impression that this is an addition to the existing home, not a new home.
Yeah, no, I think when we spoke about the plan itself, the existing piece was the foundation. So that was the house itself was being scraped. The existing foundation was in play, and then there's the additional,
Garage?
the garage that is gonna go on, and that was kind of the addition.
But the whole house is coming down?
The whole house coming.
Okay, so I think that, I walked into this meeting tonight thinking this was pretty straightforward. I had reviewed it, I even had talked with emailed with the building inspector. I'm not comfortable with it right now. I don't know how other board members feel. If if the house is gonna come down altogether, then you no longer have the, it's not a special permit for what you're trying to do, because you'd be expected to comply with the zoning. So I really think that you probably want to talk to the building inspector. Patrick, you can be involved with this
Yeah.
and get this cleared up, because this is not what's before us is an addition, and what you're talking about is a demo in a new house. So, are you a builder?
No?
Okay, so you're helping
Yeah,
him
yeah,
out?
just
Oh, yeah,
help
we are
out.
together.
We're cousins, yeah.
Working it.
Okay. Because, yeah, if you told me you had done this before, I'd be curious, like, how'd you do this before?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So if you're retaining the footprint of that existing home,
Mhm.
as well as the walls of that existing home, I think that's what the chairman is getting at, and you're extending it with the addition. That's what I was in the impression, that this is an addition to the existing home, not a complete demo of the home.
Yeah, it's a complete demo. No, and then, and what-
Remains just the foundation, that's the proposed.
I think what Patrick's alluding to is that there are ways to address that, but I think it has to be discussed with the building inspector to
Okay,
figure
so
out.
come back tomorrow. We'll come back.
Yeah, and talk to them.
Okay.
Right.
And so then go to, and say this is just a complete rebuild.
One of the things,
Yeah.
we're not gonna give you any
Advice?
legal advice, okay? But you can talk to Patrick and the building inspector to figure out how best to accomplish what you want to do that still makes you in compliance. Because if you tear the house down, you lose the ability to be as close to the property line as you currently are. So,
Okay.
In terms of interpretation, so that's where I'm hesitating on keeping the foundation. I guess I would need to discuss that with the building commissioner, because I was under the impression that the foundation was going to be the pre-existing part remaining.
It
I
is.
assume, but you know, that's what I mean.
Mhm.
I'm under the impression, at least with this application, that is, you know, the walls itself, and this is going to be an addition to, not a complete demo. That's what the.
Say that again.
The application itself is for modification to the existing home through the addition.
Mhm.
If the foundation is what you're keeping, that is not what I was under the impression, or we were under the impression with the application. If I'm misinterpreting that from a zoning enforcement standpoint, I would need to clarify with the building commissioner if keeping the foundation retains the, I guess, the non-conforming nature and allows it to be a special permit. So typically, if you're keeping the walls of the existing home as well as, you know, including the addition, that's where it'd be if it was 9.4A.
Since in the beginning, we are pretty straight talking about keep the foundation only, and also you mentioned about the possibility to have modular home which sit on the foundation.
That's another.
That's, yeah.
even what you requested was
So the
a
foundation
addition,
itself.
and your plans, even your plans show, it says right on it, addition. It doesn't say, you know,
Right,
new,
right.
new construction.
New
So, I mean, this is not the worst thing for you, but it's gonna, what we'll do is, I think you probably want to continue the hearing to, like, a future date, whether it's a month from now, you know, probably a month from now, get this all sorted out, and then come back
Yeah.
with a plan that matches up with what you want to do. Are you comfortable with that?
I think so, but I was wondering why they wouldn't withdraw without prejudice if this isn't even the right section they're filing under. And I guess I had a question, how did they choose 9.4A? Their application.
So they wouldn't have chosen that, they would have had to talk to the building commissioner.
Okay.
and been-
Oh, all right,
This is
okay.
the way they would have to go.
All right, so they had some help picking 9.4A, okay.
Yeah.
But
no, I'm
again,
against
if
it.
they explained to the building inspector that they were doing an addition, that would be,
Right,
Yeah,
no, I
we-
understand that, I didn't know if they're gonna stick with 9.4A, I guess
that's a decision that
they would have,
they
okay.
The
can.
building inspection will advise about the code. We don't know about the code for the zoning, so that's.
I mean, the building inspector did sign the application,
Right.
so it's clear that he reviewed whatever was proposed. I think we just have a question about whether there was a common understanding about the,
Yeah, I mean, when we
Yeah.
spoke to him,
Yeah.
we spoke to several.
Yeah.
We actually discussed the modular home going ahead and sitting right on top of the current, even to the length of the size of the foundation and how, how difficult that would be to get that right fitted on the current foundation. So it wasn't, it was pretty clear, so we can follow up with them, but, yeah.
Okay, one thing, seeing that we have you here and we have a number of people in the audience, you know, the big issue is the water, Caltech, the water
Runoff?
water runoff and how it's going to be handled. And I actually thought that was good. It looked like it was well designed. The town engineer said that it seems like it meets the requirements. Does anybody have any questions on that? Because clearly they're going to have to come back, but I don't want them to have to come back multiple times. Did you?
yeah, I did have a couple of questions not related to the stormwater report, so I understand if you need to talk to somebody about that. But there's a discussion in there about compliance with the stormwater management standards, and one of them has to do with preparation of basically a construction management plan to deal with silt runoff and things like that. And in the report, it indicated that it was not required in this case because the project was not large enough to require a specific federal permit that is required for construction that's greater than an acre. But as I read the stormwater standards in the DEP handbook, the NIPD, this federal permit, is not a trigger for that. It applies by virtue of the fact that you're building in the Zone 2 Water Protection Overlay District. So I just wanted clarification if my understanding is correct on that point, and whether a construction management plan is nevertheless required, even though this is a smaller project, because of the requirement in the stormwater management standard. And then,
So it is required.
yeah, as I read it, it is. And I don't think it's going to be a complicated thing, but I just wanted to get clarification on it. And then another question, I know that the engineering department has already concluded that the thing is correctly sized. I'm aware that some of the rainfall data is being updated by DEP, given the greater frequency of storms and greater precipitation. And I'm just curious if whether the numbers that have been used in the report reflect that sort of increase in rainfall intensity or not.
I believe it does.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it does. So when we met with them, that was part of our conversation, was that increase, so.
Okay. And then I know that there have been comments from abutters regarding a planting plan, and I don't know that it's required, but I think if there's any information you could provide, if there's going to be additional planting.
Yeah, I mean.
Certainly, yes, yeah.
There it
I
is,
mean, a
okay.
lot of those trees had rot in them, so, I mean,
Yeah.
our family's been there over 65 years, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
we plan on having a robust plan to, replant and shrubs, trees, the whole thing.
So that's the kind of thing, for our next meeting, if you bring that in,
Yeah.
and particularly where a lot of this really we're talking about the water flow onto the property. If you can show something that's going to have trees that are going to help control the water flow off your property,
Sure, sure.
that would be good.
I have the engineer provide that the information, and they study about it.
Okay.
Is able to do that.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Anything else? Okay. Yeah, like I said, I thought we were walking into a quick, easy meeting, does any of the neighbors want to comment on this? Are you guys all here in support of it, or opposed to it, or? You don't have to,
Thank
this
you.
is America, you don't have to say anything, but I'm just, so, at this point, what you can do is you can request to continue the hearing, and, I'm not going to.
Revisit the building department and
Yeah,
talk to
and
them
I-
about it. Yeah.
you probably want to do that, but
Yeah.
we can't tell you what to do.
All right, okay.
Pat, or Lauren, what's the next we have a meeting on the 21st, but I don't know if that's going to give them enough.
18th,
18th.
The 18th, I'm
and
sorry, the
then
18th.
February 1st.
February 1st.
February 1st.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue this meeting out until February 1st, 7 o'clock here at Town Hall. And hopefully at that point, you'll have talked to the building inspector, talked with Patrick, get this worked out so, it can be done. And what Bob said, I wrote them down. The construction management plan, as far as, it doesn't have, it's not a complex construction, but it is a requirement.
Yeah.
And also a planting plan. Is there anything else board members would
plan.
want? Okay. Okay. So we're going to just vote on the continuation at this point. So at the request of the applicant, could I have a motion to continue until February 1st?
So moved.
A move by Judy. Second by Drew. Any further discussion on, this is just to continue the case? Okay. Last chance if you want to talk, you're here on a Wednesday night. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so carried. Okay, so this is continued until February 1st.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, next we have the regulatory agreement for monitoring the Cedar Edge. This is the 40B in South Walpole. Are people here for the South Walpole case? Okay. Okay. Thank you, have a good night. Thanks. So, Patrick, why don't you walk us through, you and I have talked, town council has been involved with this. I'm at the point where I think it's a formality that needs to be done, but why don't you explain to me, explain to the board. where we're
Absolutely.
at.
So obviously, it's a lot of paperwork to go through. A regulatory monitoring agreement for any 40B or affordable or LIP project is usually it's an agreement between the subsidizing agency and the developer. So it's the developer with mass housing in this situation. So as it relates to this project, the project's been broken up into both a rental portion, which would be the Cedar Crossing portion, and then there's the ownership portion, which is Cedar Edge. So this form, a completed and endorsed version of this form is necessary for the developer with the subsidizing agency, as also it's a triggering threshold that's needed for the developer to get their building permits per our comprehensive permit, which is the board's decision. So what's before you really is what's called the acknowledgement page. In this, it sounds harsh, but this is really more or less an agreement between mass housing and the developer, whereas the board would endorse an acknowledgement. The board isn't a party to the agreement in the sense that they can make changes or anything like that. And that's reflected in town council's letter, essentially that this information is, it meets the criteria of what we were looking at, what is essential for the project is that these units will have a deed rider with them, the affordable units of the ownership portion of the project. That deed rider is in perpetuity because that deed rider must be maintained throughout the sale. And the comprehensive permit also is another threshold that is an overarching element where if the comprehensive permit indicates that the affordable units are affordable at a certain rate, which ours is, I believe it's 80% AMI, and we indicate it to be in perpetuity, and that's reflected in its conditions B. It's like if you were to look through the section of our comprehensive permit, B goes over the affordable component. So that element also factors into that. A lot at once, but essentially that this is more or less just an endorsement, or not endorsement, rather, an acknowledgement of receiving and seeing this form. It gets 3 copies need to be signed, and luckily Lauren is a notary, and it has to be notarized. and then it's sent back to the developer, who has to send that to Mass Housing for final, final, I guess, ratification or certification. And then that form is what is needed from the developer when they go to get their building permit, along with a litany of other items. So this won't be the last time this board sees these as these projects, both for Summer Street and then any future 40B projects. This is kind of part of this pre-development, post-decision pre-development stage, where a few other items need to be acknowledged by the board. Similar with the site stability bond that we talked about last time. So there will be times that projects still come up and be acknowledged by this board. I don't know if there's any.
So for the board members, I went through this, actually, I did a word search on it, looking for the word perpetuity. And perpetuity is not in this document. That raised concerns with me, because I wanted to make sure that any of these units are protected in perpetuity for residents in Walpole that need affordable housing. And town council, through Patrick, responded that the perpetuity part is referenced in other documents, including our comprehensive permit.
Comprehensive permit and the deed rider, which is an affordable housing deed rider that must be with the property throughout all sales.
Right.
Yeah.
So I then went back and said, well, it'd just make it a little clearer if they said perpetuity in this document. And it turns out that this document is something that is standard from Mass Housing?
Yes, yeah.
And we can't even edit it. It's their document. They say this is what they need for the affordability. So it's part of the process. So although I'm not, I think it would be better for them to have the word perpetuity right in there. It's not our document. And so that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So
Who actually, like, kind of owns the document?
It's Mass Housing. So it's Mass Housing standard language that they need from all developers that receive subsidy through them, I guess, so to speak. So
They only need ZBA because we're the permitting board?
correct. So the ZBA is the board for which the comprehensive permit was issued. That's why the acknowledgement form, we're the town, so to speak, we're the entity that encompasses all other responsibilities for the town as it relates to this project.
And kind of,
Yeah.
and town council reviewed this acknowledgement and
Oh, yeah.
and says, because it's not just that we're not just acknowledging that we have the document
Yep.
that says, we hereby agree that the foregoing regulatory agreement, this document, including the terms and conditions of all the attachments, the affordable housing restriction, the monitoring services agreement, the limited dividend monitoring services agreement, satisfy the requirements of the comprehensive permit as defined therein. So we're sort of,
Yeah.
we're agreeing to that affirmatively by signing this, and I just, as
Yeah,
town
you're
council's
right.
okay with that, then.
That's exactly right. So I mean, not sorry if I misrepresented that. That is town council verified. Obviously, we got the
Yeah.
form I think before Christmas, and so that was with
Yeah.
them up until.
No, I
recently.
just wanted to make sure that was done, because I certainly have, just seeing this now, haven't read all these documents. So I guess we're just being advised by town council that it's all consistent.
And it is. And town council has advised.
Yeah.
I even pushed back.
Yeah.
And town
No.
council has advised more.
I reached out to Mass Housing today as well to get further verification of what they were looking at. That's why
Yeah.
we're doing 3 wet signatures, I guess, so to speak, is because it's their form, it's their requirement.
No, it's my understanding too that these are not negotiable documents or anything like that. So
Yeah.
it's not like we're going to be able to make changes. I just want to make sure it's clear what we're signing.
Yes. Yep. No, you're right.
I mean, it's an interesting position that we're required to sign this, but we don't actually need to we don't need this. The builder needs this, right?
Yeah, but part of it is, it's saying that these were all requirements in our comprehensive permit. All this, we referenced that in the future, these documents will be prepared. And now they're being prepared, and we're basically saying, yes, you've prepared these documents as required in our comprehensive permit. Correct? Is it?
Yeah, for the affordable portion of
For the
project.
affordable
Yeah.
portion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John?
Judy, yes.
Does it also kind of inform where it's now saying Enterprise Bank is involved and how much money's being, so is it more of also for us an informational, like, yeah, this is what they're doing, we're kind of affirming what the comprehensive permit said, and to me, it was just like an acknowledgement saying, yep, that was in our decision, everything's there, now we're agreeing that everything's there,
Yeah.
and I think housing wants just to make sure we're agreeing with
To what we've already.
what we've already agreed to
Yeah,
possibly.
yeah.
Paperwork.
More paperwork.
There's a lot of there's a lot of pages here.
I know.
Lauren printed for all of us. Looks like maybe twice.
Quite a bit.
Yes. Want to make sure you had it.
Thank you. My print is burning up.
I was kind of curious what would happen if we're like, yeah, we don't really want to sign this as is, we need to make a few changes, or we're not signing.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
The other thing is, there is a plan in here that shows the location of the affordable units, and one of the things that we should look at is that they're interspersed throughout the development, that they're not like all in one area. And again, when I saw that, I see that they are, you know, throughout the development. So, anybody have any questions or comments, anything else on this? I thought it was interesting that perpetuity wasn't as clear, but, yeah, that's maybe not a priority. Affordable housing is the priority, and I just want to make sure that it's available for residents in Walpole in the future, not just when this gets built.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not a lawyer, and obviously the wording of it seems, as you would say, wish it would be more front and centered, but having discussed with town council too, it's like the way around it is obviously it's the deed rider is really kind of like, that's paramount to the affordable units essentially when they get sold. That runs with the property. They go to sell it, that runs with the property, and that's part of what gets factored into future sales down the line of those houses.
So it'd really just be kind of the other stuff that's in here, outside of the affordable, that is a little harder to put your finger on?
Yeah, a lot of it is seems to be standard procedure with mass housing of everything that they're looking for. So obviously, like part of a 40B project, when someone is looking for the project eligibility letter, they need to make sure they have a limited dividend company set up throughout the process. So this is kind of bringing that language back into the fold and affirming that.
Okay. So I get the feeling other towns just sign these pretty quickly, but I'm glad we took the time to go over it and make sure we know what we're signing and that it's good with town council, and that I'm comfortable with it. And I hope if you guys are, unless you want to discuss it some more, I think we can move to a vote to sign it. Okay.
Are you signing, John, or
Actually, I think there's a place for five
we all have to sign?
members to sign.
So, yeah, so obviously it labels chairman and members. In terms of how many people sign or what if someone needed to be on the case at the time, it doesn't really specify. I think it's just general acknowledgement.
So, so it just, as Patrick said, there's space for all five of us to sign if you want. So, does this require a vote, do you know?
I mean, it could just for formal purposes, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Could I have a motion to sign the acknowledgement of Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Walpole? Yeah, it's the acknowledgement from the ZBA.
So moved.
Moved by Judy. Second by Drew. Any further discussion on signing this? Bob, you good?
Yeah, I'm just checking. There's a reference to the regulation. I just want to see if
No.
it may be a requirement that we all sign it, so I just want to double check.
Wanna just wait until
760
Bob checks
CMR
it?
5602.
It says 5605 11th. I don't know.
Oh, that one. Yep.
Mark, are you a direct abutter to this?
Not a direct, but pretty close.
Within 300 feet? Did you get noticed?
I get noticed.
Okay, so you got like a letter in the mail? Yeah. So,
You're also, I mean, you're also an associate board member too, so I don't think if you feel like you're not obligated to sign, it's their call
Okay,
on that.
probably better
Okay.
if I don't.
Yeah.
Just for
yeah, it's
other
not,
purposes.
yeah. It won't be necessary for you to sign it.
I'm always fine with not signing things.
Yeah.
The 5605 11 doesn't really answer the question. So. Anyway, we're certainly okay if we all sign it. That's just a question. If not, a majority signs. I don't know if that's an issue. So I think if 4 of us sign, I think we're fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. We've had the further discussion. All those in favor of signing, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You'll abstain, Mark?
Abstain.
Okay, and 1 abstention. Okay. Okay. And next, and we can sign that at the end of the meeting. And then the next thing we have is the minutes. These are minutes from December 7th. Do you have anything on these?
Nope, they look great to me.
Anybody have anything on the minutes? So, Mark, you wouldn't vote on these, so,
Nope.
just because you weren't here
Sworn in
for it.
yet.
Do you want more time to review them?
Just
Judy?
one second, I forgot to flag something, I'm sorry. Okay, now I can see you right.
Okay, could I have a motion to approve the minutes of December 7th?
So moved.
Moved by Judy,
Second.
second by Drew. Any further discussion on the minutes? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, and Mark abstained. Okay, so carries.
Mr. Chairman, I just had a question. There was a memo about the warrant article.
Yeah.
Are we going to talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit? Okay.
yep. So, a few weeks ago, Patrick and I met with the building inspector and also with town administrator. Who else was there?
Drew.
Oh, Drew, yeah, and Drew was there. And we couldn't have more members there because that would be an open meeting at that point. So we went over things, and one of the things that many of you know, I really wanted this bit about continuous flow and even the cased opening. And it was pretty clear that from the building inspector that we cannot dictate a cased opening, but we can say continuous flow in a house. So, so that's, the cased opening was taken out of the proposed bylaw change. And, you know, the question would be, what is continuous flow, whether you can have a door without a lock on it, but that's,
So I think, if I remember it, so in restricted passage, and I'm not going to try to pretend I know building code or anything like that, but I think that's where Commissioner Carley brought up that term was fine,
Unrestricted passage.
Unrestricted passage. It's just when you dictate from a case to an opening, then you're kind of infringing on, I think it's Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 3, about the interior of a single-family dwelling. But in restricted passage, I believe you mentioned something to do with with basements as well. It was essentially that you couldn't have a locked door or an exterior door or something of that nature, but
You could or could not?
could not.
Could
So
not,
it's-
okay.
I guess by keeping it as unrestricted passage, that comment was fine.
And I almost wonder whether, since that's such a fuzzy term, whether it's worth defining it in some way so that it's clear what it is or what it isn't. Or we could leave it to the building inspector.
Well, no, I think that, there's going to be, this isn't this is what's going forward, and I expect that other people are going to have a bite at this, and there'll be public hearings on it, and people might get things changed, but this is what we're putting forward to the selectmen, and then they carry it, because
Right, no sponsor.
they'll sponsor it. Judy?
One other edit, which I was confused by, was you went back to the 33% from the 25, and I didn't know, I wasn't clear why you would do that. Other towns use 25%, so is it a math thing that we
Yeah, it
can't
was,
seem to figure it out?
It was a math thing, and it had to do with a large, let me get this right, a large house, like a really big house, could have a, a very large in-law suite. But a small house would be at 25%. It was quite, 25% of a 2,000 square foot house would be 500 square feet.
Yeah.
And then it also triggered, there's a limit of 850 feet.
Right.
So basically, it's not penalizing, in the way I looked at it, is it's not hurting somebody that has a small house, but if you have a huge house, you're not going to get a huge, you'll never get more than an 850 square foot
Okay,
suite.
all right.
It caps out at that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think the general language has always been kind of like that. It's always whichever is less. So
Whichever's less,
You know what I mean?
correct.
So if there's a situation, I have a 4,000 square foot house, 33 or 25% of that's still going to be a significantly
It
sized.
cannot be more than 850.
Exactly.
Correct.
All right, so that, all right,
That's always
that's
going to be
fine.
the
But
threshold.
you see, because we thought about it and said, if somebody has, a smaller house, then they're really, at 25%, they've really got to,
And I think by moving the minimum from 250 to 350, that's where you have a situation. If you have a home that's 1,000 to 1,200 square feet of habitable space, decreasing that by 25% is what might not be conforming with the 350, and I believe that was the reasoning from that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then with kitchen or kitchenette, I didn't look, do we have kitchenette defined in our definitions? Kitchen is one thing, kitchenette is, to me, a hot plate in a college dorm refrigerator with a sink, but whatever. So I had asked Patrick,
We don't have it. We don't have it in our definition, so maybe that's. Let me just double check on that.
okay.
'Cause I don't think we ever
what-
discussed that. We could.
I didn't even know why we needed to have
Kitchenette.
kitchen, or even,
No, but kitchen, the kitchen is what defines it as an
as a
in-law
in-law
accessory suite.
accessory suite, right? Because otherwise, you can just, it's an addition.
Well, he's doing
Kitchen's
that.
not even.
The other thing was, we had talked, and we just approved the minutes about the habitable space, and we actually defined it in the bylaw, but now it's been removed. We're all kind of agreement that habitable space, and then we had defined as,
Yeah.
did you give me the wrong thing?
I send you. I forgot to print out the last page when you came in on Friday.
Oh.
So the definitions are there. You want to?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, I'm
We got-
like, I'm losing my mind here, because.
No.
I know, I spent a lot of time on this, and it's like missing. Okay, let me look, all right.
We added the
Okay.
language in there that you want.
All right, so we don't, so, because we talked about it and said,
Yep.
we could leave it in the bylaw and in the definition, so is it cleaner not in the bylaw, but?
Yes, And the
Okay.
reason why it's cleaner that it's not in the bylaw, because if bylaw numbers change, if something changes in the bylaw,
Well, that was with the definition. So the definition of in-law, I think we talked about this, whereas
Okay.
in the bylaw, it refers back to the actual section, like it was 5-B.2. I kind of hesitant to do that just because I think if it refers back to the applicable section, it's
Okay.
numbering changes over time, and that would just be kind of you have to go back and there'd be a lot.
maybe I
more.
misunderstood. What was your question about the definition?
We had written the net floor where we had habitable space in D2. And after habitable space was, it said finished heated living space, and it basically the definition.
Yep.
So in the bylaw, it was comma, because there are other towns that actually had done that. They had put that language in just so that people saw it there, and yes, you'd have it in the definitions as well. So, I mean, if it's there,
It's good.
if it's in our definition, then that's fine.
Another thing that was added, third degree of kinship, that would notice is at the bottom of the
Yep,
definitions.
okay.
That's not defined, and that's kind of a term where, again, adding clarity to the bylaw, I think, seemed to be the main driving factor of making any amendments, was just to, define something that
Okay,
might not be easily defined.
okay.
So the two big changes that came out of the meeting to me were what we called, the cased opening, that's gone, but it does still say
Unrestricted passage.
unrestricted passage, which, we're getting there. And then the other one is the 25, going from 33% to 25, I'm sorry, going from 25% back to the 33. And that's really to protect a smaller house.
Small house, okay, all right, that's fine.
Anything else? We don't have to vote on that or anything, it's just, but that's what's gonna go forward with the select board, and, I plan on going and
I was going to email you about
You know-
that. So that's next Tuesday.
next Tuesday, okay, yeah, so. And
I'll-
anybody else
I'll
is
probably
welcome to go.
go as well,
Yeah,
but
good.
if too many of us go, do you need to post just in case?
Get an
I don't know if
update on
anyone else is
MBTA
going.
zoning, too, if you're interested.
You what?
I'm doing an update on the MBTA zoning bylaw, if you're interested.
And I'll be there, I'll be there for that. So, we can talk. That was an online, it was a webinar that I
you
participated
attended
in.
it.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I got all the slides. I don't know if anybody else did. It's interesting. It's, we're gonna have to figure out how Walpole wants to handle, and it's a good thing, but we gotta figure out how to handle this new state law on more intensive development near MBTA stations. So, okay. Anything else?
I just said one thing. We had this big discussion, and then you needed to go and have another meeting with the building inspector. Would it have been helpful if the building inspector came to us during the hour and a half we deliberated over our plans?
No.
No?
I think it was done,
Okay,
I think it was done appropriately. Yeah. It's, yeah. It's sometimes good to keep the building inspector at his.
I think some of the reason too is obviously with the board taking the vote to go to the select board for a zoning article, or at least bring forward a zoning article to the select board for support onto the warrant. I know Mr. Johnson calling the meeting just to get clarity of what exactly was being asked.
okay.
I think that is part of the reasoning for that.
Okay. Good. Well, does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Drew, second by Judy. Any further discussion on adjourning? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Good night, everybody.